Thank you. And I see Kurt's on as well.
Yep.
So why don't we start by getting who's with us today here? I see we have a number of people.
We have Barry Smith. We have somebody with the last name Frazier. Maureen and Jim, I don't know who that is. Nora Ash. Rich is here, and Rebecca's here. Becky's here.
Okay, so let me ask, I see Barry, I see you're there. So thank you for being with us. Nora, are you associated with Harborside as well?
Jim, let me help you with that. Nora, Maura, Frazier, and Steve are all part of Harborside Village. Steve is the new president. He was elected in June. The rest of our crew are on a committee to report back to the membership. But Steve Coyne, Steve, iPad 2. Raise your hand.
Hello.
Steve. He's the new president of Harborside. So he is the actual board member.
Okay. So, and I see we have Rich Waldo is on the line with us. And for those of you who don't know who Rich is the new town administrator here in Wellfleet.
Hi guys. Yeah, I am here. I'm kind of jumping in between phone calls, so I'm trying to listen in bit by bit. But I am here, and I should be free in about 5 or 10 minutes. I should be.
That's fine, Rich. Thank you.
Completely free. Thank you.
So the purpose of today's meeting really was for us to prepare for the to kind of get all of our cards in order for the upcoming meeting that we're supposed to have when we are introducing any changes to our rules or regulations. So that meeting is scheduled to take place on the 26th of this month. It will again be a Zoom meeting, and it will be essentially to inform the public, anyone who's interested, in what the changes in our rules, regulations, or fee structure is going to be before it gets implemented. So we have been working with Doug Gardner, who is on the call as well. He's a consultant who has been helping us with analyzing the fees, rates associated with the water system. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I know, Doug, you had something you wanted to share with us, but before we get into that, I just want to kind of bring the other folks up to speed on what we have been looking at. There's several aspects associated with the rates and fees for the water system. First is there is a connection fee that is for both for individual residences, commercial establishments, and multiple unit residences. And that was established back in 2010. Those fees were the last time that they were really addressed, and any changes were made. And one of the fees associated with that for a individual residential property was at that time established at $6,000, and that at that point the Board of Water Commissioners who were in position that we folks are in now had established the $6,000 fee, but it was based on actually a higher fee. It was based on an assumption of a $10,000 fee to connect to the system, and that the $6,000 was essentially an incentive to encourage people to hook up at that point when they could. So that happened, as I said, in 2010. Then in addition to that, in the connection fees, and it was a $9,600 fee for commercial establishments such as restaurants and other businesses where there was a potential to use significantly more water. And so that fee, as I said, was $9,600. to those businesses. In addition to the connection fee, which was essentially just a fee to get you onto the system, there was the water rates, how much the town or the water enterprise fund was charging for a gallon of water, so to speak. And it was based on different tiers. The first tier being the first 20,000 gallons in a 6-month period. That was considered the lowest tier, and that was at 0.0014 cents per gallon, or for roughly, I believe it was like $28 for 20,000 gallons in 6-month period. Once it went over 20,000 gallons, then it would be a higher rate. But most residential properties used about 20,000 gallons in 6 months, not more. But if they were obviously, if they had a larger household, or if they were using it for other purposes, there would be, it's likely they went over 20,000. The average customer, in addition to the water rate, for the charge for a gallon of water, there was a fee of what we call base service fee that has been charged, and that was around $87. I don't know the exact amount, but around $87 every 6 months as well. So for an average user in Wellfleet up to this point, the cost for water for a year ended up being around $305, I believe. We figured that out to be. That was for a small household, maybe 2 people, and between the base service fee and the water usage fees, it ended up being around $305 a year, as I said. That's in addition to the connection fee. So we're going to be talking now about what the changes are what the proposed changes are in the fees and why we're doing it. One of the reasons that we're approaching this now is because it's concerned that we didn't realize the number of customers. When I say realize, we didn't get the number of customers that we had hoped for back then. People didn't sign up because it was too expensive. Connection fee was too expensive. So right now we have a system that has about 550 connections associated with it, potential connections. And we only have around 280 properties that have actually signed agreements to connect. And some of those folks have not even connected yet to the system. They've just signed the agreement, and it's pending them having an actual connection made between the water main and their house. So the real number of people who are on the system is probably a little less than 250. However, we really want to try to build that number. So that's why we started looking at the fees and the rates. And that's what we're going to be talking about now. And I'm going to ask Doug Gardner, our consultant, to kind of take it from there and talk about the rates and the fees. You're okay.
Can you see the screen I'm sharing right now?
It's just coming up now.
Yep, we got it, Doug.
Okay, so I just, first of all, this is Doug Gardner. I've been working with the town for the last, I don't know, almost a year coming up on with the water rates and helping them determine how much we need to charge for the rates and help fund the budget and that kind of thing. So the slides I threw together that I'm going to be presenting have to do with the connection fees. And I'm not determining what the amount that should be charged. This is more or less what you're charging now and the way I believe that you should charge in the future. These connection fees right now comprise of allowing you to tie into the system, but also gives you the water meter, the radio, and all the additional services that go along with that connection. And that's really not the way the fees should be structured. The fees should be structured in a two-part format. The first is for the ability to tie into the system. And when you have the ability to tie into the system, that does not include the radio or the meter or the inspection or anything else that's involved with actually tying into the system. It's actually, you are paying for the ability to draw water at some point in the future. The analogy that I often use is it's like joining a country club. You pay an initiation fee, and that doesn't give you the rights to use the pool or to use the tennis courts or to use the golf course. It simply means that you are, for lack of a better term, a member. And that's what the connection fee should be. And so what I would recommend is that we actually start calling that by a different name. Most communities call it a system development charge. And that would be for, again, strictly the fee to buy into the system. The fee should be based on the connection size. Larger connections should pay a larger fee. That also eliminates by having the connection fee, it eliminates the residential commercial designation. And why these fees are so important is that they're not used to balance the budget on a daily basis. That is, you don't use it to pay for salaries, or you don't use it to pay for any expenses. These revenues need to be accounted for separately and can only be used for one or two different items. Primarily, it should be used to fund future capital improvements. That's why you have the system development charge. Now, the second charge that goes along with the connection fees would be, it's a separate charge, and that actually gives you the water meter, the radio so that you can read the meter, the inspections that are involved, and that money does become part of the everyday revenue and can be used to fund capital and salaries and everything else. It's treated as ordinary revenue. So I would like to see the commission move that there are two separate charges. That way it's nice and clean. As the meter charges are going to increase, which we know they are, everything's increasing at a pretty accelerated rate these days. It helps keep the accounting really clean. You can identify the development money. It can be segregated into the account to be used for the proper measure. That is, again, capital improvements. And then you have the separate charges for the meter. So the water meter, the radio, and the two inspections. An example would be a 5/8 inch Neptune meter. This would be the standard water meter for a resident or a small business. It gives you the R900 radio interface. And then there would be two inspections for when the meter is installed. The charges would be somewhere around $500 for the meter and radio and the two inspections. Someone who has a larger connection, say a 2-inch compound meter, you would have the 2-inch compound meter, the radio interface, the two inspections. The cost of the 2-inch compound is roughly 20 times what a 5/8 inch meter costs. So significantly more money. And then also you possibly may need a meter pit if it's going to to a business that requires one. So what, again, this allows us to segregate the revenue so that the development money can stay with the capital, and the radio and everything that's associated with the meter would be accounted for and included as part of the ordinary revenue. So as I mentioned, I'm not making any recommendations as to what these numbers should be. I just recommend that they should be based on the connection size, not a one size fits all.
Kateri has a question here.
Yeah, the second, with the second thing, the water meter, et cetera, you said approximately 500, but you didn't give an approximate for the first. What range were you thinking for that?
For the meter and the radio for the standard homeowner, the cost would be about $275 for the meter and the radio. And then there would be 2 inspections by Whitewater. You pay them pretty close to $100 per inspection right now. So these costs here, they're basically just recovering money that's out of pocket for the department.
Right.
And then a little bit, and then we're recommending a slight surcharge because prices are going to increase.
So some of the properties that are on the system now do have meter pits, but I believe all those meter pits were essentially installed at the cost of the residents, not
and yes, and they should be.
Right.
And that's why I recommended that there are possible other costs down here, such as the meter pit.
And if it were a commercial property that had where there was a concern about a potential cross connection, there are requirements from the state for inspections to be done on a regular basis, maybe once a year.
Once or twice a year, yes, once or twice a year, depending on the type of device they have.
Right. So
that cost would be would have to be paid for by the business.
So let's use Harborside for a moment. There are let's say 83 residential units there, individual units on the property. So that would obviously, in all likelihood, would require a 2-inch compound meter, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So that the fee for them would be for the meter and for the inspections would be over $3,000. Now it wouldn't be like what
yes, that is correct. And it would probably be more than that because they would need a meter pit. And of course, that's a one-time fee. So right. It's not a reoccurring fee. Right. Again, you're buying, and then there would be an additional cost. This is just the cost for the meter, the radio, the inspections, and the meter pit. You would also have the connection, the system development charge portion.
And that's right now what the water commissioners have recommended on that is that we reduce the connection fee for an individual property, for a single residence, so to speak, to $750, a one-time fee of $750. And that would be in addition to the cost of the meter and the inspections, and as well as any of the costs associated that they would have to pay to a plumber to make the actual connection from the curb stop at the street to their residence.
That is correct.
Right. And I think that was one of the major deterrents for some of the folks who were looking at connecting to the water system, that the cost to actually, that when the connection fee has been $6,000, on top of the $6,000, there was a understanding that the property owner might have to pay almost the same amount just to get the connection made from the street their residence based on how far, the distance from from the curb to their residence. So for some people, it could be very expensive under the old system. So we're hoping that by reducing the connection fee now on an individual property from 6,000 down to 750 plus those other expenses, that we will encourage more people to sign on to the system. Doug, can you talk about the methodology that we're looking at in terms of what we call the unit methodology?
Sure. Let me back here. So the board is looking at what is known as the unit method of charging water rates. The other method is known as the meter method. And the way the meter method works is that the water that goes through the meter is calculated based on that the water is feeding one user, even if it's a large meter. And I'm going to use Harborside Village as an example. So there would be the master meter, the 2-inch meter that the water flows through, and then the bill would be calculated on whatever flows through that meter. So there would be one semi-annual minimum charge, and then whatever the cost of the water that goes through that meter. And they would, based on their prior usage, they would climb into the highest step rate, the potential third step rate that the board is considering rather quickly. Now, the other method that Jim mentioned is what's known as the unit method. And the unit method is based on that even though there's a single meter that supplies a large complex like Harborside Village, there are actually, and I'm not exactly sure how many connections there are, but we'll just say 80 for simplicity's sake. That even though there's one meter, you're feeding 80 different customers. So therefore, you would have 80 semi-annual minimum charges, but you would then multiply those 80 customers by the amount of water that's allowed in that first step rate, which is 20,000 gallons. So you would take the 80 customers, multiply it by the 20,000 gallons that's allowed every 6 months, and you would be paying for the first 1.6 million gallons at the lowest tiered rate. You would not climb into the third step or even the second step until you exceed that 1.6 million. And then if you allow 50,000 gallons in that second step, you would multiply that by 80, and you would not reach the third step until you hit 4 million gallons total. So it's a way of charging each customer, assessing a cost for each customer based on a single meter. I know it's fairly complex, but what you're doing is you're charging each customer a base charge, and you're charging each unit a base charge, and then you're allowing them the amount of flow that's in that first step. And it's cumulative, so you do not exceed that first step until you get to that 1.6 million gallons.
Did someone have a question?
It's very complex.
I have, can you hear me, Doug?
Yeah, I've got you.
Yeah, I just had one question that had to do with the inspections. I know it's a minor detail, but do we actually require 2 inspections, or is that just provisional in case 2 are required?
I would
No, we
defer that to Karen.
We need 2. They go in when they dig the trench and then they go back out when they're done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So let me, for those of you who haven't been part of the discussions that we've had up to date on this, the reason that the Board of Water Commissioners has been advocating for the unit methodology here is to make this as equitable as possible related to other residents in the town. So let's say if I'm on the water system, I have a single family home, I would be paying forget the connection fee for a moment. I would be paying the base service fee every 6 months. And under the proposed rates that we're now talking about, that base service fee is for 6 months is $125 for 6 months, or $250 a year. Then for the actual water usage, the rate is such that if I don't use more than 20,000 gallons in 6 months, my water bill is for water is going to be around about $55 for the year, just the water usage. So the total that I would be paying as a single family household would be about a little over $300 a year, which is equitable. It's comparable to what a single family residence is paying now in Wellfleet for the privilege of having town water. So we wanted to get as close to that as possible for any multi-user properties as well, such as the Harborside or the proposed affordable housing complex that's going in up on Lawrence Road across from the school. Those properties would be assessed the same way, so that they would be treated as 46 different residential units, and they would pay comparable rates to what an individual residence would. Let's say I have a 2-family house and I want water for that 2-family house. Since it's 2 families, that's 2 residential units. So that property would be assessed based on the 2 units. So instead of it being $125 in the 6-month period, it would be $250 in 6 months, or $500 for the year. But that property then would enjoy twice as much water flowing through the meter in the 6-month period as a single family residence does or would. So it does keep it hopefully equitable for all residences in the town. Anyone, any one of our visitors have any questions? If you do, raise your hand and we can be happy to entertain your question. Barry, yes, Barry.
Yeah, we understand what you're coming at, because your tiers, what you didn't say is that if you do jump that tier to the next tier, the dollar per 1,000 gallons goes up quite a bit.
Considerably, right.
And so by doing it the way you're doing it, you're keeping us all in the lower tier for the longest period of time. And so it works out better for us. We've done the numbers and it does work out better for us using that method. Even though we have to do 83 connection fees or 83 semi-annual fees.
Service fees, right.
Yeah, service fees. Once you do the math, it's better than if we had one connection and jumped into that 3rd tier real quick.
Or it gets expensive, because I can assure you that the properties in town now that do go to those higher tiers pay a significant amount for water usage, such as the restaurants, which is understandable. They use a lot more water. And, so this way, at least, we can show that it's as close to equitable with current residential properties as we could make it. So.
Yeah, the missing piece for us is the connection fee, or Doug, I forget what you're calling it now, the infrastructure fee or whatever those initial fees, and the cost for us to have the individual guy with the backhoe come out and engineer the connection.
Well,
to
I
the
think what we have done with certain properties in town, like say with Cumberland Farms, for example, Cumberland Farms paid for a lot of the infrastructure to get the water to their property. They paid for the extension of the water main on Route 6. They paid for the installation of hydrants, things like that. So, I mean, I think that we would be looking at ways to make that easier for you to do by, we wouldn't be doing that work. You would be doing that work. You would have to hire the contractors. If you need an engineering plan, you would have to hire the engineer to do the engineering plan for that, which is what Cumberland Farms did. And in the long run, it kind of evens out. Hopefully, that it isn't too much more for you than what a connection fee would be. But obviously, because of the size of the meter, right off the top, that is an increase right there. So you have to figure that the actual cost to the town for that meter is around $2,800. So there's a small increase in small additional charge for what we have to do to get that meter here and get it to you and for installation. But then you've got to find a plumber who can do this work.
Right. Well, from Doug's presentation, the only missing piece that I think we don't, right, at least I don't understand, is the proposal had a $9,000 commercial. We would be in, I'm assuming, in that commercial bracket. There was an initial $9,000 connection. Is that, are you saying?
No, those are the current charges. Those are not,
okay.
I'm not recommending what the charges should be.
Okay.
I'm just talking about philosophy.
Yeah, so if we have an 8-inch drop in Kendrick and we hire Robert B. Hour or some coastal engineering or whatever to come in and get that water down to our park, are we looking at 3,000 plus the 2 inspections?
See, that's where it goes. The 2 inspections would be also, I think there would still be at least 1 inspection that would be required to each property. If you have part of that inspection includes checking for potential cross connections, or if there are private wells or on the property, that there has to be an assurance that none of those private wells are hooked into the municipal water system.
Right. Well, there's only one, currently there's 1 private well connected. So we understood that we can only be on 1 water source. Right. So are you saying that would be 225 times 83 or 225 times the 1? I don't, unless there is an inspection required for individual properties. No, I don't think you would be charged for an inspection. Obviously, you wouldn't be having inspections on the individual units, unless, as I said, there's a potential for a cross connection there.
Right. Yeah, if I might just interject for a second, I think in the case of HVCC, they're already a public water supply, so they already meet the requirements. So they have no cross connection issues or backfeeding by virtue of their inspections that they have to do as a public water supply. So they're in the same regulatory regime as the town of Wellfleet as far as their customers that are connected.
One thing we do recommend, Barry, is that for all customers, that if you intend to use, or if you intend to have irrigation on your property, that should be done with a private well, not with municipal water, because it's very expensive. Right.
Yeah, we've kind of already have our numbers. We've done our numbers as far as the operating costs. Once everything's done and the bulldozers are gone and the grass is grown, you know, the costs are pretty much the same. It's just the getting in cost that we're looking at now. And so this is helping us, at least if we know we're in the realm of $3,200 with the meter and the inspection, then we need to get with our contractor to figure out, all right, how much is it to engineer and dig the hole and run the line?
So I would say that what Doug called it, and I like that term, system development charge. So
Yeah.
there would still be a system development charge, and I would say we're trying to keep the system development charge the same for all properties.
Right.
So that 750 would be in addition to the cost of the meter and the inspections,
Okay, so
as well as
that?
any costs that you incur to have the connection actually made.
correct. Okay, so rough math, and 4,000. 3,200 plus 750
Right.
roughly. So, okay, that's kind of what we're looking at, because one of our guys works for Robert B. Howard, so he's working the engineering piece of it to get it from Kendrick down to our 3-inch line. And we understand the math. We've done the math on the 83 times the 125 times the 20,000, et cetera, times the $1.30. Is the rate $1.38 per thousand for the first 20?
$1.40.
$1.40. Okay, 2 cents. That's
For the
those are all good numbers for us, because that number, that's the going forward cost. And for us, on a good year, we are a little cheaper. On a bad year, you're cheaper. And when I mean good year, bad year, depends on whether we have equipment breakdown or propane charges for snow or whatever. So our annual operating cost is about the same. It's to getting connected to the new system that we need to resolve. But you've helped us with that.
Yeah, I'd want to add one other thing too, Barry. I think what Jim was alluding to is in the case of Cumberland Farms, I mean, it's not a big deal for you folks because we've already reduced the connection or the system development charge from 6,000 to 750. But because of the type of connection that you are and the amount of work that you're doing, for Cumberland Farms, we actually waive that fee. So, you know, I think what Jim was alluding to is we could take a look at that as well. It's not a lot of money, but something to try to make it a little sweeter for you. I also did look at one of the, I think where the really big savings comes in, and that is this, this compound meter charge, even though the meter itself is pretty expensive. If each of those units were a residential unit and they were connecting based on the cost of a residential meter, so you had 80 meters, you'd be looking at $46,000 to connect each unit. So that's a huge savings by going with a single meter to the location. And the other thing I've been thinking a lot about, you folks in particular, and the difference between your current water supply and connecting to town water. And I just saw there was an article in the Globe about 2 days ago, and it had to do with PFAS, and it had to do with an organic composting facility in Westminster, Mass. And it turns out that people around that facility had PFAS in their wells that was about 300 times the state limit on PFAS. And PFAS is carcinogenic. It's one of those really nasty chemicals. It's called a forever chemical. It's something that the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection is beginning to start to get their arms around in terms of how to regulate and how to deal with it. But it's a big, big, big problem. And what it means for you folks is that, yeah, the water quality that I think you have in one of the more densely populated areas of town, as you begin to look at other things that might be in there, I'd feel a lot more comfortable getting water from out, the Boy Scout Camp wells or Coles Neck well fields than from that particular area in town. There are just so many residents and because of your own density and so on, I think your peace of mind in terms of having a really high quality water source is also worth something to the residents.
Well, to be selfish, the other issue is that running a system is not easy, and we're offloading to you all of those headaches of power outages and shortcomings of our system.
And one of those headaches, and that, as you know, is that you do have to have routine inspections. And the reality is that we are anticipating that there's going to be more inspections required, even on our system as well as we go forward for issues like Kurt was describing here with PFAS issues. And these tests are far more expensive. So we're already required now to do those tests. And eventually we'll have to pass the cost of those tests on to all of our customers. You know? So it's not going to be like what you folks have been paying. But I think we just need to know that whatever charges there are for inspections that we're paying now to Whitewater, for example, those charges are going to go up in the future. We already know that. And we'll have to pass them on to our customers.
And the other piece of good news is we have been tested for PFAS and we don't have an issue.
Oh, good.
So.
Any other questions? I see that Laura's got her hand up.
Yes. Could you just explain, you've been using inspections, the word, what exactly do you inspect? You talked about digging and then we have to do part of it.
What an example of some of the inspections that happen now. They go in, they do what's known as cross-connection inspections for like at restaurants to make sure that their systems are set up in such a way that there is no potential for wastewater or other water sources to contaminate the public water supply. So, and that in case of restaurants, for example, and some commercial properties, that's required sometimes as much as twice a year to have those inspections. In addition,
does that include a backflow inspection?
Like a backflow, right? Kind of like
that would be included, and that's done twice a year.
It could be if it's a restaurant, for example. Like the bookstore, I'm certain they're required to do inspections there. Even though they're on town water now, we don't inspect. They get an inspection by Whitewater, and it could be every 6 months now, based on the fact that they are it's considered a public water source there as well.
So at this time, DEP does not require the PFAS inspection. It sounds like you did it voluntarily.
They've just started to do this.
They're requiring it, and they're going to be pushing
not on single family properties. So.
No, public water supplies, but that means that HVCC, which is a public water supply currently, will have PFAS, testing required.
Was it done yet? Has it been done there?
No, we have not heard of any new requirement yet.
I'd have to look exactly at the latest report.
Yeah, they keep changing what they do based on the size of the public water supply. And restaurants, for example, their testing requirements are increasing. I think it wouldn't surprise me in the next 2 years that pretty much everybody that's a public water supply, regardless, is going to be doing PFAS testing, mainly because the numbers are surprising people in terms of how bad they're turning out to be in locations that people didn't think there would be a problem.
Yes, that's just become a big issue now. Just for your records, we don't allow any outdoor watering, no sprinklers. And I think sometimes with wells, people take longer shower. We would try to get, people to kind of conserve water a little more too on our end. maybe give them some incentives to get better shower heads or, you know, other remedies.
So, Steve, with yours, I think the one thing is you've got 80 some properties there that will be sharing the same meter. So if I would assume that there are going to be some that use more water than others, or less water than others. And so hopefully it all evens out and it doesn't kick you into the second tier, you know.
Yeah, but like Mass Save has put on a big push for energy conservation. A lot of people here took advantage of, you know, doors, windows, insulation. So, you know, sometimes the water part of it gets left out, you know, old toilets that would have, you know, running stopper or something. We would just encourage at that end, but we don't allow only handheld watering out here for plants. So
one thing I would like to also add, it may not be apparent from the type of meter that Doug was talking about, this compound meter that we're thinking is probably going to be the right meter for you. It has two capabilities. One is to measure high flow, and the other is to measure very, very low flow. So we would have information that could potentially help you with the folks that you might have leaks or you might have other issues going on. Because we're able to measure at very low flow conditions as well, we may be able to see what your normal low flow is supposed to look like, and if it's exceeding that, and work with you on the conservation element as well to reduce your water costs.
yeah, that we've got a range of for summer usage, and as more and more locals are moving in here, so I think we have 14 full-time residents, Barry.
Yeah, maybe not quite that many, but
yeah. So,
but I think what Kurt, what you're saying is like even in the middle of the peak in the summer at 2 a.m, you would know what our normal flow is, and a leak would be kind of pop up on that meter if it exceeded a normal 2 a.m. reading type thing. Is that?
Yeah, we may be able to do that, and I think there's also alarming capability. So they're pretty sophisticated. So you can start to get some very good information that would, you know, potentially help you locate or identify leaks or excess usage.
Yeah, we currently get meter readings every day, Monday to Friday. So we kind of can see that, and the water operator can. Now they don't on Saturday and Sunday because they're not reading it, but they interpolate on Monday. But yeah, it would probably be nice to have a smart meter watching the thing 24/7.
Specific question for you regarding the size of your lot there. What is the distance, say, from the nearest hydrant to any of your properties there, any of your units there?
About 145 feet.
So the meter or the hydrant that's out at the street is close enough then to be used for fire service?
Well, the hydrant there at 180 Kendrick, that lot is 100 feet deep, and then it's a back lot of about 40 feet, and then it hits my trailer and the park. So that's why I say it's about 140, 145 feet from the street to that first trailer.
Because if just so you know, and this would be, your engineer would have to deal with this, if you require another hydrant someplace on your property, that will mean that the water main that goes into that hydrant would have to be at least a 6-inch main.
Right. Yeah, we kind of knew that. It would be quite extensive to push that meter to the center of the park. The park is almost 10 acres in size, so it's quite deep.
Do you know what the current feed Barry is to, you know, from the water source to the residents? Are you running a 3-inch line from that?
I believe it is. I think the main line throughout the park. I'm sorry, I had a visitor pop in. Yeah, I think it's a 3-inch line, runs the majority of the park, and then smaller lines, probably 1 inch that goes into each unit. So we would be coming off the 8-inch, picking up that 3-inch loop, big loops. If you've been in the park, heard the trailers
Yeah, so
are
I'm just
kind of
trying-
loop.
So probably when you have an engineer look at what you want to take from in terms of a feed from the main, they're probably going to have a specification for what they'd like to see for a meter. And it may be, it may be that it needs to be 3-inch instead of 2-inch.
Right.
Anyway, I think a couple of things. I want to go back to Doug for a moment. And because, as I said, one of the reasons for our meeting today was to get our index cards in order for our public meeting that we have to have in a couple of weeks. And I want to be sure that we cover today everything that we should be talking about in that meeting. Anything else you can think of, Doug, that we should be addressing here?
I think you need to look at your other fees that you charge for like people who pay their bills late, what you charge for services provided that cost you money that you don't pay for. It's not really something we need to discuss in this forum.
Right.
But, something we should talk about. It would bring in a small amount of money, but every dollar counts.
Yeah, Karen distributed that response from John, and I don't know who John is, about forgiving some of the fees that people who had not paid off for $6,000.
Oh, that's something we have to deal with the legal counsel on with it, because we don't have the fine. I don't think, is Rebecca with us? Becky, are you with us?
We were sent this message from John, and basically he said that if we forgave something, we would have to reimburse the people who actually paid the full amount.
I don't know if that was the legal counsel.
No, I don't know who John is. That's what.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That did come from KP Law.
So they're saying that if we forgive forgive fees for one person, that we need to do it for anyone who's paid in.
He's suggesting.
No, that's not what it said.
That's not what it said.
Did you read the same thing I read? Because
Yeah, no, it said that basically you've got to justify whatever fees you're charging, that they're fair and equitable at the time that you're charging them. And our determination now is that people who are connecting to the system and have recently connected, that a fair and equitable charge would be the $750.
Yeah, but what about the people that already paid the $6,000? Because that's not what the last paragraph says.
Yeah,
Yes,
those people who paid the $6,000 paid that at a time that was determined to be fair and equitable.
we can't pay them
Yeah,
back.
but so were the people that took out loans and have liens on their houses.
That's right. So we would be saying that the fair and equitable charge has changed.
Yeah, but
For
he also-
everyone, though.
No, you can't go back and change it 10 years ago. We don't have a rate analysis for 10 years ago. We don't have any kind of basis upon which to determine what was fair and equitable 10 years ago. We're only looking at what we're looking at now and determining that, we think the 750 is fair and equitable.
I can't,
Moving forward, though.
I can't go to the gas station and say, my gas is $4 this week. But I paid $5, you got to give it back to me. The new price is $4. And it's the same thing like Kurt says, the new price is $750.
Right, so you're not, Kurt, I just want to be clear, you're not talking about the past, you're talking about moving forward.
Well, we have a transitional issue as well, so there is still that issue.
That's the issue he was addressing.
You know, people that are currently in a payment plan.
Those people who agreed to a $6,000 charge, but have took a 10-year payment plan for that, and are, say, only in their third or fourth year, we can't forgive
them unless we reimburse the people that actually paid the full amount. That was my interpretation of what he was saying.
Yes, that is, you're correct. That is the interpretation.
Thank you. Yeah.
They're gone.
Well, going forward, they would be paying less.
Yes.
So I'm time payment plan.
Well, we're not going to have a time payment plan for
Oh.
the new.
Oh, well, it's probably not necessary
Well,
at
you're-
$750.
Yeah, but he's talking as though there was some fund that we would have, money we would have available to reimburse these people who got charged more. Okay, and we don't have that kind of. We really, that doesn't.
Only the select board can give them back the money.
But we have 40. How many properties, Karen? 48 that are in that situation.
Yeah. Yes, Jim, that's
40,
true.
so that's 48 times 6,000. That we would either have to, if we forgive it for one, what he's saying is that we have to forgive it to everyone.
Treat everybody the same. I don't think anybody's getting.
So where's the money coming from, Jim?
I'm not suggesting that we're doing it. I'm just saying that that's what if I understand correctly, that legal counsel said that if you agree to forgive the payment plan for one person who signed up with it at 6,000, you have to reconsider what you did for the others who have paid into that as well.
And where do you draw the line? What about the people who have water and hooked up and paid the 6,000?
All up front.
Need to be reimbursed. That would be equitable. He's implying that you have to worry about treating people fairly, and that gets very complicated because there's no capital accumulated that you could use to pay that.
See, I think that if you, if you have a property that, decided last year to sign up for water, and they're on the system now, and they're paying it on a deferred payment plan over 10 years, we can't forgive that. They have to pay that off.
Excuse me, is the Harborside Village portion of the meeting over now?
I want to see, is there any other question? I do have a couple of questions for you. Well, one major one. We're going to be doing this meeting in a couple of weeks. A Zoom meeting to answer questions about and to give the presentation about the changes in rates and fees. Are there other questions that you would recommend that we be prepared to answer?
I think from the past meetings and the meetings I've had with Kurt and whatnot, I think we have a good handle on the numbers. I think, the system that you outlined helps both us and you get more people onto the system. I'm in that boat. I have a house that the previous owner paid the $6,000. I'm yet to connect it. So I can sympathize with the problem you have, but I bought the house, and the house had that connection. Harborside, we're just happy that you've come up with a system that is trying to work with us. That's going to make the numbers reasonable for us to do that. So I'm kind of on both boats there.
So Maura, in response to your question, yes, I think we're done with your section of the meeting. You're welcome to stay with us, or if you want to leave, please feel free to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the next meeting we'll have a park treasurer who works for Robert B. Hour. So he'll have more of just the engineering that we have to figure out and the cost on that. And other than that, I think we're pretty solid on. Barry's been working on it for a while, so.
So, see, one of the things on the, as part of the plan for you, we will require engineered drawings that would be shared with Whitewater. They have to sign off on that plan. Because they have to see the plan as to how the connection is going to be made, what it's going to require in terms of equipment or infrastructure, and they have to agree with that. That's really part of that initial inspection.
Do we have to pay Whitewater, or are you paying them on a fee if we?
That's part of that initial inspection fee.
All right.
Yeah, we were aware of that. It wasn't even Whitewater, isn't it? An engineering company that they use, environmental services or something.
We use the town uses environmental partners.
Yeah.
But I think that, like Cumberland Farms, I think that they use coastal engineering when they do it.
Right.
For their engineering services.
Yeah, we were aware, Steve, that we have to have it engineered. So Craig's aware of that.
Okay. Again, thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you.
But Doug, is there anything else that you think we should be including in the presentation in 2 weeks?
Jim, one thing in the presentation, it wasn't clear that the 20,000 gallons is semi-annual.
It's semi-annual, right?
Right, but it wasn't clear.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure that that's clear. And
yeah, because it's really it's 40,000 for the year, but it's a
20,000
for 6 months. But it's my understanding it's a January to June. Is that?
No, Karen, what the current read schedule is what?
We read in May and we read in November.
May and November. Okay.
End of May.
They put their faith and their trust in Donald Trump. They wanted to believe in him. They wanted to fight for their country.
Yeah, we'll have to be an open meeting on the 26th.
And how are we going to inform them?
It's already been posted in the newspaper.
Okay.
But I think we will need to get it on our website as well.
Yeah, I would think so.
And we probably want to share it with, like even the local papers that there's
Yeah, like the Provincetown Independent.
Jim, it's already been advertised. We don't have the budget to advertise other than the two. So
Well, where did you post it?
I gave it to Rebecca and Rebecca posted it twice. I don't know which paper. It could have been the Independent. I don't know who.
Well, I think we need to go through the chamber and whatever, and get a bulletin out, like the non-resident taxpayers association.
Yeah, I mean, this is really important to get people.
Yeah, we
there.
want to get people on, to know about it so that they can participate in the forum. Right. Yeah.
Really have to get, I mean, there's no point in having it. Really needs a lot of.
Well, we have to have it.
Yeah, no, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I read a lot of the local papers and
I haven't seen it either.
It's in the legal, they're posted in the legal notices section. So unless you aggressively read the legal notices section, it'd be pretty hard to find.
Yeah.
if it's in the Cape Cod Times, I've been looking, I have not seen it there.
I'm sure we can find out from Rebecca where she posted it.
Right.
Yeah, but we've got to do more posting. I guess.
Although I'm not sure, just because Rebecca's on vacation, she may have scheduled it posted prior to or post this meeting, so it would be in this week's Independent. Again, I'm not 100% sure here, but it would be in this week's Independent on the 14th, again on the 21st, so you have your 2 weeks of advertisement before the public hearing. May in fact not have seen it.
Right.
So the public meeting's July 26th, at what time?
4 o'clock.
I thought I overheard you guys, somebody mention generator problems. We had the same lot of generator problems there with South Shore. We went to FM Generator, who I use in my building in Boston, and they're a really good company. I thought I heard somebody mention something, but yeah, we couldn't get out. They couldn't solve our issues on our generators for like over a year or two. So I didn't. I just thought I overheard somebody said that.
We did.
Yeah, we paid. They suggested too. We end up paying $4,000 for one system, and the generator never ran every time the power went out. And then FM solved the problem.
That's our history with them too.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. Doug, you have anything more? No. I think you're
Sorry, I do not.
okay. So for the meeting on the 26th, well, I think, can we work together to try to flesh out that presentation that you were doing? Maybe add a few pieces in that, so to make it clearer, like as Barry was asking about the semi-annual.
Yeah. Yeah, I just put those slides together briefly this morning, just really for informational purposes. I didn't know it was going to be put up as part of this presentation. So anything that we need to do for the public hearing is going to require a lot more legwork. So yes, I'm happy to help you with that. And there'll be several versions that go back and forth until we tweak it and get it just the way you want it.
Anybody interested in working with Doug on that over the next week to 2 weeks?
Sure.
If you'll do that, that would be great, Kurt.
Need anything specific, give me a call. I don't know what I can provide, but yes.
So, Jim, I don't know if we have to resolve this. I think we do before the next, before the public hearing, but so I've read the legal opinion and I have a different view than Rebecca does with regard to the history of what was presented to the lawyers. I'm not sure to what extent their opinion is based on the fact that they think the $6,000 was discounted from $9,000. There's just a lot of stuff in this response from John that's not accurate. The $6,000. First of all, the $6,000 was not set based on what the water system determined it cost to connect a user to the system. In fact, the users paid $3,000 over that, which was the actual cost to connect to the system. So the $6,000 was a system development charge.
The system anti-development charge.
Right. And I'm not aware of any water department or board that's ever been restricted from changing its system development charges or its rates. and or going back and crediting anybody for a difference in or a reduction in rates.
Impression was that he said we have the ability to change anything we want, but it might be considered inequitable if we didn't compensate the people who had already paid.
So how are we going to resolve this? Becky, do you have any suggestions?
Yep, I have one. First off, I read that several times, and there's some confusion in the middle of it about what you can repay, what you can't forgive, what you can pay back, and it was a little confusing. I'd like him to give us a better letter. And
How about, okay, Becky, are you still with us? You are. Can we, would it be possible for us to try to get?
Yeah, I'm here.
If we have a meeting next Tuesday, can we get him to join us to explain this?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, he
Can you-
can. Well, I
can
don't
you-
know if he can get there Tuesday, but I'll ask him if he can, and if not, what other days work for him. You're talking about John Giorgio?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think, Rebecca, I just don't think this responds directly to our situation.
Great.
I just want to ask just a general question. If you have somebody, and you can correct me, but if you have somebody that paid cash for this $6,000 fee, let's just say a year ago, and you have other people that took out a loan for $6,000, how are you only giving the break to the people that took out the loan and not the people that paid in cash? And my second part of that question is, where is all of the money going to come from to keep people back? Because there's no money. You don't even have enough to pay for meters.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is suspending those payments.
Okay, but what about the people that paid in cash?
They got what they paid for.
They got their water, they connected to the, or they didn't connect to the system.
But how is that fair? How is that fair at the end of the day? Just because some people have to take out a loan and others are able to pay in cash in full.
Some people buy cars by cash, other people take out a loan.
But you don't, the loan doesn't get forgiven.
The loan doesn't get forgiven, and not only that, but town meeting had passed a budget based on those revenues. And so you can't just take them away arbitrarily. That's a town meeting vote that needs to approve the budget. So it's either in the future, you actually create an appropriation in the enterprise fund budget that gets approved on a town meeting, but a budget for fiscal year 23, the current year we're in, has already been approved with the understanding of revenue projections and things like that. So I think that's the response you're going to get from John. John's going to say you have latitude to do certain things, but if you do not basically align with budgets that were approved at town meeting, that's when you're going to start getting into a problem. And that's why I don't think you run into this situation too often. I mean, my years of public works, we never gave money back. I mean, it was just the understanding that this was the agreement at the time. Things change. Typically they change in a different direction, that they go up. And usually you tell people it's a first come, first serve, or this is the rate at the time, and then it goes up. Not too often do you go backwards. But that was the cost of the system. That was the cost of, probably many grant applications that you applied for. You had to justify the revenue that was coming in. You used this information to justify that. And so basically it was tracked. That was the right number at the time. And I think you guys, as hard and difficult that it is, I think you just need to move forward and try to not to correct things in the back.
Well explained. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. I think I don't know that we were talking about giving money back. I think what we're talking about is whether we continue to collect revenue from people who have paid or are in process of paying their connection fee, but not connected to the water system.
Yeah, and
But
then
it's anticipated revenue.
yeah, so
You're
that-
double paying
question of,
for no service.
you know, I think that would be a question of are you altering the budget that was approved at town meeting to a detriment that might be more of the legal problem.
Well, but Rich, we're also altering the budget by increasing the rates. So,
Oh, that's for the next budget.
But you had projections on rates, and you had projections at the time when these budgets were set. You know, Doug had a presentation. The former interim town manager or a town administrator had used that recommendation to build the budget. So there was the expectation that there was going to be increased revenues, and that was brought into the budget. And that was my concern last week was, okay, these changes that you're making, is that going to really alter the budget that we had approved? And you know, ultimately, I think we can justify that you're going to be close to what those projections were set. But in terms of revenue, you know, you're going to change the revenue projections quite a bit.
well, what we're trying to do is change the revenue projections to acquire new customers.
Right.
And each one of those new customers brings in a significant amount of additional revenue. So that's the economic basis and the cost basis behind the proposal. And you know, almost a 15 or 20 year history of a financial model that's broken, because at the rates that we're even at our current connection fees, you know, taking the $750 as a system development charge and then adding in all these other meter fees, there's nobody on the Cape that has a higher total cost of connecting the lateral plus the municipal connection fee on the Cape.
Yeah, but that's something we can't correct what the town has done over the last 20 years or 30 years in terms of the fact that they did not they didn't take municipal water when they had a chance for federal funding for it. When all these things happen, now we're facing a problem here, and we can't make amends for all of that over the years.
Right. So I think, Rich, what we're trying to say is we're trying to do the best that we can in a bad set of circumstances. And if we don't fix the fundamental underlying problem, it's just going to continue to persist.
And again, maybe next year when we set the budget, we look at the abatement line item and we discuss about maybe increasing the allocation for abatements to give latitude to this board to maybe offer something in the future. But I don't think we can just do it arbitrarily in the middle of the year. I just have some reservations about that.
Well, the only thing that the only fee that I saw that was really changing here would be the base service fee. If for those people who have paid their $6,000 and haven't yet connected, they have been being charged twice a year for the base service fee, even though they're not getting any services at this point. And I think if we looked at that and said, okay, that's right now it's been $87 every 6 months. And if there are 40 some properties out there where this is a potential problem, if we don't collect those fees, that's not a significant cost to the town. Hopefully we'll make it up in new connections and increased water rate charges.
Yeah, and I think we estimated that number to be about 10,000, and I think you guys justified some of those other adjustments that you made where that 10,000 would be covered. I think it was pretty close.
The reason that I have been advocating that we have to do something about this is that we have threats of lawsuits here on this. We've got people who've been paying into the system and not getting anything. And if you look at the way that was written back in 2010, it said nothing about how long people could go on without actually connecting to the system without paying that fee. So, we've raised this issue because there's a concern. I know of at least 3 properties where they have threatened to take this to the state because they're not getting anything. They paid their fee and they have not connected yet. why are we charging them for a base service fee when they're not getting any services?
Yeah, Jim, I don't disagree with you. I think, you know, in the end of the day, we projected that change would be about a $10,000 differential from what we had estimated for the fiscal year 23 budget. So I think that's an okay decision. I think we could justify that it doesn't have detrimental effects to what was approved at town meeting. I think loan forgiveness, again, you know,
I agree. I would not go for the loan forgiveness. They signed an agreement that said, I will pay this back over whatever period of time. And I understand I am responsible. I have a debt now for $6,000. I mean, if you sign that agreement, you pay, you know, you have to pay that. So I'm not for forgiving those loan agreements. They're legal documents now. They impact on the deeds for these properties.
And we don't have any control over that. The agreement was not signed with the water commissioners, it was signed with the town. And Rich is right. No, once that's done, it's the town's bailiwick. We can't do anything about it.
It is signed by the water commissioner.
I was going to say, Tom, we did sign
I've
those.
seen the document.
But also backed up by the town. Paid the money. Here's another one. All these people, we've all been talking how you get a raw deal because you paid more than they're getting now. How about if we raised our rates and told all those people and said, hey, we raised our rates from 6 to 9, you owe us $3,000. Nobody in their right mind would expect that to fly.
But I think legally, I hear Rich's point and I hear Rebecca's point that in order to even consider a transitional model for anybody that's in that category, it's a legal quagmire, number one. Number two, we'd have to get town meeting approval for an abatement line item. So I don't see that as an option.
So do we still want to meet with John?
Well, I mean, I guess that's a question as to whether or not we should be asking to have a meeting with the legal counsel on this matter.
Fair enough.
Rich, that number, if based on the existing base service fees that we had at the time the budget was put together, that if we were to basically stop collecting that now, for the coming year, it would be approximately $8,350.
Yeah, and the difference there is between using the new service rate versus the one that's already in the budget, because we hadn't approved the new fees yet.
Right.
So the new fee would bring it to $10,000. At what's in the budget, it's the 8 that Jim's mentioning.
So that's what we'll be on the hook for here, not having in our budget, for the coming year, for the current year. Now it's actually, we're in July already. So.
Well, my other concern is back to informing the we have a meeting in 2 weeks where we get enough people. Is there some way to contact people who own properties along where the pipes are currently flowing? It would be the most likely people that would be attracted, right?
Right. So, I mean, there are, we do have lists of the properties that would be impacted by the new line as well as existing lines.
Okay.
Karen did some work on that.
Okay, recently. I think we should try to contact these people somehow. I mean, otherwise, there's no point if we don't have a meeting where there's enough attending. You're going to get the people that want a bellyache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also the option of doing like a postcard.
True.
To all.
Yes. And people read postcards, and they're cheap.
But that would only be for certain zip codes.
For for certain addresses. But yeah, no, I think we need to do something to reach out to these known people that are, you know, we most likely would, we're trying to attract them to connect. We've got the pipes already laid.
Well, we can put something online on the website,
On the website.
and then we could do a mailing.
Yeah, I
and-
mean, if
and
you
the-
have to do postcards, fine, do postcards. I mean, if you're doing a survey, a postcard is terrific. Everybody reads it.
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I think my only other comments were based on Doug's early presentation, which is to, and again, I don't know if the committee is going to change fees or anything right now, but is to make sure you just mark up, you know, at least 10% on basically the purchases. Don't buy one for one. So
Right, exactly.
costs us 138, but it's still staff time to call, to order, to manage. Just put that 10% and get a fixed fee that way. So there's some recovery for the administrative end of things.
Right.
That's in there, Rich.
Okay.
That was
In
included.
there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Is this considered an actual meeting? Do we need-
Today?
Yeah.
Yes, this was a meeting.
Oh, okay, so could we, I propose that we adjourn.
I mean, unless there's anything else that you, Karen, I've got to talk to you about minutes, so I'll get back in touch with you about the minutes, okay? Because there are some corrections that we need to make. You still with us? Yes, you are. You're muted, so that's. All right.
Are you talking to me?
I was. So, I was saying.
Yeah, I heard you. I
Did
heard
you?
you.
So we're going to talk
Yeah,
about
you're not gonna do the minutes tonight.
because we have to make some corrections. So I'll get back to you. All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Tim, it's
What?
Becky, sorry. All right, so do you want the meeting with KB Law or not?
Is that John?
Yes, with John. right?
Yeah, you do. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I didn't hear everything.
Get a half hour of his time during one of our meetings. That would be great,
And you want next Tuesday?
if possible.
Or another night?
Okay.
I'm out. All this week, I'm out.
Okay.
What do you mean you're?
I'm out. I'm not in the office.
Rebecca, if next Tuesday doesn't work, I don't have a problem with meeting with them either, you know, separately to at least try to work on this opinion.
Okay.
If the
I
rest
can
of the committee
ask,
members are okay with that.
or I can work with Jennifer to post. Karen, are you here next Tuesday? You just don't have time to post a meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll be back in the office next Tuesday, but I can't do the meeting or the minutes or any of that stuff.
Okay.
I can
So
host
you
it.
can't, you can host it. Okay, that's what I was asking. So I can help get it posted if he can meet on Tuesday. Okay. Just making sure.
All right. Okay, so you will do that. And so, no, go back, a motion to adjourn.
He made it.
I made
I'll
it.
second it.
Okay.
Neil made the motion and Kateri seconded it. And we'll take a roll call.
Aye.
Kateri says aye. Neil?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
There we go.
Thank you, folks. And thanks to everybody else who was on the call with us.
Yeah. This has become.